So we had to get it back. We'll work on that. We'll talk about the 1996 Welfare Reform Act. This is how you help blacks. This is the part of the speech that I would entitle Defeating Democrats. 1996 Welfare Reform Act, that's how you help blacks. It's going to come through legislation, it's going to come through prayer, it's going to come through your personal stories. By helping blacks, there's not much you're going to be able to do in a legislative process, but you'll be able to do a lot with your neighbor. But we have to start doing it, and I'll explain why. So, between 1890 and 1920, black men out-married white men. What happened? Two things happened. First FDR, and then LBJ. I don't know why liberals always get FDR, why is that? Why are they so special? How come conservatives never did? I don't understand it. But anyway, they do. Actually, I do understand it. It's communication. It's how they win. It seems small, it seems tiny, but using their initials, FDR, LBJ, everyone knows that. You don't hear GWB. It's smart. It's what leftists know to do. Alright, so by 1960, only 8% of welfare benefits intended for either widows or wives were actually going to the widows or wives, and 60% of those benefits began going to baby mamas. This is what the left does. And unfortunately, this is what the black race, my race, accepts. These are our demons. These are the demons that must be conquered. So illegitimacy, particularly in the black family, skyrocketed. So in 1970, the black family had marriage rates of over 70%. Higher than any other ethnic group in America. 70%. Do you know what those figures are today? Ironically, today, now just about the same amount of black families or black children are born out of wedlock. Over 70%. A 100% reversal. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So how do you help blacks? You help defeat demons. We talk about families. We talk about social issues. I can't stand morons that say social issues. Forgive me, I shouldn't say morons. I can't stand idiots that say social issues don't belong in the conservative movement. Social issues are the gateway to the ghetto. If you want to win black people, Democrats, all they focus on are social issues. I don't know why conservatives haven't gotten that yet. It's pretty funny to me. Social issues always affect economic issues. They always do. Right? More families, better economy. It's really simple. Democrats understand that in order to be in power, they must abolish the power of the black family. And they're going to do it to Latinos too. I'm very disappointed about that, but myself and my co-hosts are working on fighting against that, but that's what they're aiming to do to Latinos and anyone that'll come around, honestly, and try to build themselves up in this great nation. Let's talk about abortion. 78% of Planned Parenthood clinics are in minority communities. Think about that. Think about that. 78% of all Planned Parenthood clinics are in the hood. Why? Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood. I'm always frustrated and amazed at how many blacks don't know who Margaret Sanger is. But I'm just as frustrated with how many whites don't. We have to know who these people are. We have to know what they've done. Because these are the demons that have been hoisted upon us by leftists, Margaret Sanger being one of them. I have a quote here where she says, "Colored people are like human weeds and are to be exterminated." And that's exactly what she's done. She's been such a great success. It's unbelievable. As a matter of fact, the voting rate for blacks today, we account for 12 to 13% of the population, okay? So we should account for about 25% of the population, were it not for Roe v. Wade. So basically, blacks are we're killing off half of our people. Talk about black on black crime. I think you're safer in the streets as a black person than you are in a mother's womb. Sad fact, but it's true. We're the only minority group in America that is on the decline. By 2038, I think it's blackgenocide.org has predicted, by 2038, the black vote will be largely insignificant. Not non-existent, but largely insignificant based on the trends. If you look at 1973 Roe v. Wade decision and look at today, the fact that approximately half of my race has been eliminated. So we give it another 20 plus years, and it looks as though the black race, the black vote, will be largely insignificant. Hence, we need a new Negro vote. Who's that new Negro vote going to be? I'm sorry if I offend you by saying Negro, but yeah, it's going to be Latinos. Or it's going to be whatever other minority group is willing to come in and accept welfare benefits and not work for the American dream. So anyone that the Democrats or liberals or leftists can take advantage of, they have to take advantage of. That's the only way they continue to strengthen their power base. Conservatives were different. In order to be successful, in order for our party to be successful, people have to be successful. In order for leftists to be successful, people have to be unsuccessful. Isn't that evil? Isn't that evil? It's pretty evil. Democrats are evil. And I don't say that to be hyperbolic. But I want you to understand how calculated and evil the Democrat Party is today. And I think they need to hear it. Now, not all of them. There's a lot of naive people out there thinking they're doing a good thing. Rachel, what's her name? The crazy lady? I don't know why everyone is so, I'm going to write on that tonight. Everyone is so upset about Rachel. Is it Dolezal or Olazal? Okay, so everyone's so upset about her. There's nothing novel about a crazy white liberal. There's just not, to me. When you look at white leftists, they've always been crazy. Whether it's the man busting into the Family Research Council to kill people, whether it's the leftist that flew his drone-looking helicopter plane over the Capitol, the Capitol Mall, whether it's I know you guys don't remember this, but a few years ago a leftist was so fed up with the IRS and his party, he flew his private plane into an IRS building somewhere in Missouri. There's stories like that galore. So white liberals have always been crazy. So that story just doesn't intrigue me as much as it does others. But I am going to write on it just to give myself some laughs and feel good about it. So that's what will happen. So we know the Negro vote is coming. Let's go to the third demon. Now this is a dangerous one. Excuse me, I got to take it. Just call me Rubio. Black on black crime. Now you have to be careful with how you argue this, because the truth of the matter is that rates in the black community and white community, not rates, percentages in the black and white community are virtually the same when it comes to crime. So you hear a lot of my conservative friends, and I've done it myself, even though I know the stats, so God forgive me. But the truth of the matter is black on black crime is not the way to argue against the left. It's not the way to help blacks. What you can argue is the rate of crime, the likelihood, the frequency. Because if I go into a black neighborhood, 86 or so percent, actually I'm not going to say exact numbers, but over 80% will be black on black crime. Just because of convenience. You're in a black neighborhood, you're going to live next to black people. If I go into a white neighborhood, most of the crimes perpetrated against whites will be by other whites. That's just the way it happens. The problem is when you look at the population, when you realize that blacks are only 12 to 13% and whites are, I forget the exact numbers, I want to say over 40%, forgive me if I'm off on those numbers, the amount of people murdered are about the same. So I think in 2013 I saw numbers, both blacks and whites murdered were over 8,000 each. But what you're looking at is the rate of murder, right? So it's more likely if you grow up in the black neighborhood that you would be murdered just because of the way that the numbers are shifted. So this is an understandable argument, but not necessarily the best argument, and the left has already caught on to it because I've already seen them get people just shaken up, conservatives shaken up about it on black crime. But I want you to be informed. Now, here's what you should understand. Here's what you should know. The issue I believe to go against or to fight against is black rioting. When you consider Ferguson, when you consider Baltimore, there wasn't as much in New York, thank God, with the Eric Garner story. When you go back and you consider the Watts riots, when you consider rendition, when you consider the rioting in Indiana, this is where I think we can make our case. This is where we should make our case, as a matter of fact, because black riots were started by white communists. People don't get that. See, we look at our race and we say, man, blacks are so violent. Why are blacks so violent? And unfortunately, blacks, my people, if you will, have become violent. But they became violent only because white people taught them how. And I don't mean to say that to offend you, but let me illustrate why. Let me break this down for you. Did you realize that the Watts riots were the first urban riots driven by blacks ever? Ever. In America. Ever. The Watts riots were the first riots driven by blacks. And now you see today, it's like, good Lord, a police officer arrests someone legitimately or illegitimately and the whole city is burning. It's absolutely crazy. To no end. You say, with no purpose. I don't understand. People are destroying their property value, their neighborhoods, their communities. Why are they doing this? They don't know. Do you believe that? They don't know. But white liberals know. Right? Cloward and Pibbins know. And I'll break that down. I'll explain who that is. I was actually part of Beck's research staff a long time ago when he was really hot on this trail and informing people. I didn't last long because it was intense to do research for him. So I give him props. He has a great research team. But I want to break this down a little bit. So the Watts riots were the first urban riots. You had the Detroit rendition. You had Ferguson, and the commonality between all of them were half-truths. Right? What's his name? Michael Brown, Ferguson. Okay, so he had hands up, don't shoot. A cop just arbitrarily decided, I'm going to shoot this kid. Half-truths. The Watts riots. The Watts riots started as a result of rumors started that a pregnant woman was apprehended and or beaten by white cops, 2 white cops, and that started the Watts riots. It didn't happen that way. It was actually a drunk black man that was apprehended by white cops, and he wasn't beaten. He resisted arrest, and they was forced to arrest him. But just half-truths started this. There's a gentleman that wrote an article entitled "Burn, Baby Burn," John McWhorter. And he said blacks went downhill when the militant became mainstream in a fed-up black America. Only in the 1960s did a significant number of blacks start teaching or treating rebellion for its own sake. Rebellion as performance with no plan of action behind it. Rebellion as political activism. Where did they get this from? They got it from white hippies. What happened is people like disruptors like Stokely Carmichael, academic disruptors is what they were called, like Stokely Carmichael, saw that their movement wasn't as effective as the Gradualist movement. The Gradualist movement being Martin Luther King Jr., being Rosa Parks, so on, etc. That movement was very effective, but they weren't getting the props that white hippies were getting at the time. They weren't getting the notoriety. They saw this movement of hippies and communists just growing rapidly and spreading rapidly. And here they were in the trenches forever, and they weren't having the same success. So they copied the white communists, and they said, "Listen, if they get TV exposure by